Zankyou no Terror in Residence, has two mysterious teenage boys known collectively as Sphinx committing terrorist attacks in Tokyo. Each attack happens sometime after a video is uploaded by Sphinx involving a cryptic clue as to who, what, where and when. Along the way they pick up a helpless third member, Lisa, who complicates the situation. Why are these boys committing the terrorist attacks? Where do they come from? What will become of Tokyo? I'm LcMotes, and you're watching AnimeZen Show. As always, the review will be broken down into individual assessable elements: visual, story, characters, who is it for, and overall. Each element will be given a score out of 10, which will not always indicate the overall score. In terms of style, Terror is comparable to Death Note, albeit not quite so dark, meaning it has that realistic look, and everything tries to seem more like real life rather than a cartoon. It's definitely an upgrade over 2007's Death Note, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's magnificently beautiful. It isn't comparable to shows like Angel Beats or Nagi no Asukara, but it definitely has its moments. So overall, I give the visuals an 8 out of 10. While the visuals were similar to Death Note, I expected the story to be too, and perhaps that was my biggest mistake when watching Terror. I had not known when I started that the show would only be 11 episodes long, and I just expected more. Not just in length, but also narrative. Now, I love a show that's more of a peek into the lives of those involved, but this one to me seemed like it tried to be the great global scale story that Death Note was, but it just didn't give itself the room to be. Upon completing the anime, however, I realized that my expectations for the show were completely mismatched with how the show actually intended to be. The truth is that the story, while short, is alright. The writers worked hard to produce a nice, rounded mystery thriller without the huge narrative background and progression that Death Note has, and they succeeded. Just don't go into this thinking that it's going to be more than that, because it's really not. If the show wasn't quite so anticlimactic and didn't kick off with such a big bang right at the beginning, then maybe it would achieve a higher score, but as it stands, I give the story a 6 out of 10. The characters are cool, well at least a few of them are, but I don't know, some of them are kind of annoying. In the case of Lisa, that's sort of the idea. The main characters are good, they work well together and they contrast each other's personalities. Most of the other characters are pretty believable, but far out, the English. At some points in the show, some characters, thankfully none of the cooler ones, will try to speak English to like dramatize what they're saying. And maybe if you're a Japanese speaker natively, then this doesn't sound weird to you and it's kind of cool, but to anyone that knows English well enough, and it just sounds silly and it's kind of a tension breaker. But anyway, this anime doesn't really explore the characters as much as some others, but they're definitely believable and tolerable, so I give the characters a 7 out of 10. This is a tough one. Zankyou no Terror is not for who I thought it would be for. The subject matter is seemingly heavy, but the anime just doesn't have that suspected dynamic. So, as opposed to the mystery thriller kind of audience, I'd actually recommend this one to the slice of life viewer who wants a little bit of a break from the light subject matter without going too extreme. All things considering, Zankyou no Terror was a good watch. It was good enough that I would recommend it, but not to everyone. Overall, I give it a 7 out of 10.